In Luke chapter 22, verse 7, we read that the festival of unleavened bread arrived when the Passover lamb is sacrificed. Jesus sent Peter and John ahead and said, "Go and prepare the Passover meal so we can eat it together." Later in verse 19, during the Passover meal, Jesus says to them, "Do this in remembrance of me." So in his last Passover meal, Jesus is not teaching a repeat of the annual Jewish Passover festival. Instead, Jesus established a new thing for a new purpose. This is the New Covenant Communion Christian service. This is a time where we once again, as Christians, remember the life, that is, the teaching ministry, and ultimate sacrifice, the death, the shedding of blood that eventually ratified, or as we might say, gave the stamp of approval to this new covenant ceremony. The Benson commentary notes that when Jesus said, "Do this in remembrance of me," he meant do it no longer in remembrance of the deliverance from Egypt, but in remembrance of me who, by dying for you, will bring you out of spiritual bondage, a bondage far worse than the Egyptian, under which your fathers groaned, and will establish you in the glorious liberty of God's children. Do it in remembrance of me who, by laying down my life, will ransom you from sin and death. As a result, Jesus, in his last Passover meal, effectively replaced not only that Old Covenant commandment, but even the language that defined it. For example, Ellicott's commentary notes that the word remembrance is also used in the Greek version of the Old Testament in reference to the showbread in Leviticus 24 and the blowing of trumpets in Numbers chapter 10. As a result, Jesus goes on to explain that this cup of wine symbolized the new covenant in my blood poured out for you, as he later says in Luke 22:20 and Matthew 26:28. Lastly, note how there is something of a cloak and dagger atmosphere generated by the procedure Jesus outlines for the Passover meal, as the Word Biblical Commentary notes. For example, the householder is being asked to cooperate in concealing one who had been exercising a provocative teaching ministry in the temple by day and who was at this stage something of a fugitive by night. Not even the disciple band itself, including Judas, is to know ahead of time where they will be in the evening. Jesus has seen to it that his final evening with the disciples, spent in Passover celebration, will not be disturbed. So let us not pass over our Passover, the Lord Messiah, who with his teaching and sacrifice instituted for all who follow him this new covenant commandment. And in so doing, we are to be reminded that whenever we get together as a church, we continue to proclaim all that he taught and did until he comes again.